Good day, Mom. Good day, classmates. I am Patricia Sabatin, and I will be reporting about the cognitive load theory. So first, John Swaller. The person we can see here in the photo is John Swaller. He constructed the cognitive load theory. John Swaller, a theory that focuses the load on working memory during instruction, he said. And he is an Australian educational psychologist who is best known for formulating an influential theory of cognitive load. He also received a PhD from the University of Adelaide's Department of Psychology in 1972. His thesis was entitled Effects of Initial Discrimination Training on Subsequent Shift Learning in Animals and Humans, and he also received a BA from the same institution in 1969. He also authored over 80 academic publications, mainly reporting research on cognitive factors in instructional design, with, with a specific emphasis on the instructional implication of working memory limitation and their subsequences for instructional procedure. So, what is cognitive load theory? Cognitive load theory has been designed to provide guidelines intended to assist in the presentation of information in a manner that encourages learner activities that optimize intellectual performance. So it employs aspects of information processing theory to emphasize the inherent limitation of concurrent working memory load on learning during instruction. So it make it makes use of the schema as primary unit of analysis for design instructional materials. So, as a teacher, we should guard our students' learning from cognitive load because cognitive load theory was created for us, nor for the teacher to be guided or on how to create in unstructured materials to maximize the learning of the students. Cognitive load theory, or CLT in simple terms, is an instructional design theory that reflects our cognitive architecture on how the way we process information. Also, why cognitive load theory is important for the teacher. It is because cognitive load theory explains on how information is transferred to long-term memory. It is on how to understand the process that can identify small changes that will improve how quickly and effectively we can learn new information. So that is cognitive load theory. So there are three types of cognitive load theory: the intrinsic cognitive load, the extraneous cognitive load, and the germane cognitive load. First, in intrinsic cognitive load, it described by Chandler and Swaller that intrinsic cognitive load is the idea that all instructional has an inherent difficulty associated with it. This inherent difficulty may not be altered by an instructor. However, many schemas may be broken into individual subschemas in thought in isolation to be later brought back together and described as a combined whole. So intrinsic load is the thinking part of cognitive learning theory. The intrinsic load, or the level of difficulty. So like have you ever noticed that some content is easy to learn while other subject matter is difficult? So, like for instance, learning a chord or two on the guitar, learning a, learning a chord or two on the guitar may be easy, but playing like Jimi Hendrix is difficult. That is because playing multiple notes while mixing it certain other elements like guitar pedals is a bit more complex. Hendrix's style of playing has a higher intrinsic load. That's and that is intrinsic cognitive load. Next is the extraneous cognitive load. Extraneous cognitive load, by contrast, is under the control of instructional designers. This form of cognitive load is generated by the manner in which information is presented to learners. To, to illustrate an example of extraneous cognitive load, you are assume that there are at least two possible ways to describe a geometric shape like a triangle. So the instructor could describe a triangle verbally, but to show a diagram of of a triangle is much better. It is because the learner does not have to deal with extraneous unnecessary information. So the the extraneous load, or how information is presented, it is a reflection of how you choose or or to showcase your information. So you generally have two options. It's either text or visuals. So you need to opt for a latter. Like for another example, for instance, let's pretend that you want to give a 45 minutes lecture on circles, as in circles. So, keeping with an analogy you, above, you can either one or to share definition of a circle, or you can choose to showcase it visually, like the visually like this sample, mm, like this sam like this. So that's the circle, and this is the circle. So you will be pretending that you will be giving a 45 minutes lecture on circles. Keeping with an analogy above, you can either one share the definition of a circle, like so, like that. So, or you can choose to showcase showcase it visually, like this sample, this. So the last sample is clearly easier to understand because it is visual, and when you choose to go to visual, with your information retention will increase by 42 42 degrees, 42%. So in the same spirit of the intrinsic load, break out your content into a visual representation rather than text description. So the next one is the next and the last cognitive load, types of cognitive loads, is the germane cognitive load. Germane load is a third kind of cognitive load which is encouraged to be promoted. Encourage, when you say, kung alam natin encourage, yun na yun. So, encouraging students or encouraging learners. So, is the it is it is the load that helps building new complex schema in a successive manner in helping the learner to move from novice to expert. It is a self-effort to learn and memorize information learned. So, is coined as effective cognitive load caused by schema construction. The germane load, or a building blocks. So, for example, I live in south, so you may think I go deer hunting. Deer hunting. Let's see a example. So, deer hunting. I don't, but I'll go ahead and use this illustration as an example to the germane load to discuss to you the germane load of cognitive load theory. So, because our brains are constructed by connections, processes, and building blocks. So, in other words, we like to connect the dots on new material in order to understand it. So, as a presenter me, it is going to be best interest to connect those dots for my audience. So I'll give you an example. If this this picture is an example. If I went to deer hunting this past weekend, I can respect the germane load by stocking my information. So in this photo, make sure your choice of content and imagery connects the dots for your viewer. You can ensure this by opting for visual storytelling. In this case of this deer hunting example, my slide below has the word the words deer. If you see the words deer here with an image of deer behind it. If you see the behind the deer word is deer animal, right? So and the text and image, the text and image are the building blocks, and it should be easy to recall that I went to deer hunting, and that that is germane cognitive load. So let's go to implication. Implication, working memory extremely limited. Long-term memory is essential unlimited. So when we say implication, it is an occasion when you seem to suggest something without saying it directly. And implications, the process of learning requires working memory to be active or engaged in the comprehension of instructional material to include to be learned information into long-term memory. So if the resources of working memory are exceeded, then learning will be ineffective. So there are implications in the classroom. So the goal of the instructor should be to reduce extraneous cognitive load and increase germane cognitive load. Instructors can accomplish this variety of ways. Change problem solving methods is to avoid means ends approaches that impose a heavy working memory load by using goal free problems or work examples. So, in physically integrate multiple sources of information whenever a possible to eliminate the need for learners to have a mentally integrate that information which increases the load on working memory. So lastly is to reduce redundancy and repetitive information whenever the possible so that the load on working memory is lessened. Last is use auditory and visual information. So under conditions where both sources of information are essential. Like for example, the redundant to it is to understand. It help use auditory and visual information can help us to increase the capacity of working memory. So in conclusion, always remember that human brain can take only so much information, or your audience does have a mental threshold and you must not cross it. So keep your content simple. Keep your visuals engaging and make sure to connect the dots on your main concept. If you do these things, you are respecting cognitive load theory, which means you are respecting your audience. And that's all. And the next reporter will be Lizelle Campos. Thank you.